Crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. Just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade. From the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon. We will use a number of films and already seen, and with the intent of pointing out some of the things that we observed on the spot, which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking at them here from the surface of Earth.
What are you making it?
Sorry, David, sorry, I didn't mean to hug you like that, but I'm so excited! It's won! It's landed! It's landed!
You've waited years for this!
I've waited years! I'm just so excited! I'm gonna cry! I'm sorry, it's fantastic, it's fantastic, it's wonderful!
The flight, as you know, started promptly. And I think that was characteristic of all the events at the flight. The Saturn gave us one magnificent ride, both into Earth orbit and on a trajectory to the moon.
So So what is the order that you are doing?
We're going to have you sit back down and...
But somebody put a seat.
Our memory of that actually differs little from the reports that you have all heard from those previous Saturn V flights, and those the previous flights served us well in preparation for this flight in the boost as well as the subsequent phases.
So come on through, gang, and this is...
The transposition and docking sequence.
This was our first look at the magnificent machinery which had been behind us up until this point, the booster. Of course, the first and second stages have long since separated, but this shows the LEM.
Sorry.
You want to sit down now, don't you?
Sorry, now I'll try and be a professional scientist. This is an amazing moment for a European Space Agency history.
Emotion just came over you.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's just wonderful. It's just unbelievable. We've waited so long, and now it's happening.
The S-4B after the translunar inject burn. This maneuver was an interesting combination of manual and automated techniques in that we programmed the onboard computer to make the turnaround, and then these final maneuvers were made completely manually. As I approached the LEM, I had an easy time because I had a docking target, which is of the retract cycle when the 12 dock.
For the lunar module, of course, is in a sense upside down relative to the command module.
This is in lunar orbit, showing the separation of the lunar module from the command module as viewed through my window. This was a busy time for me in that I was taking these motion pictures through the right-hand window.
Say something profound.
I am terribly humbled by this experience. I forever, secretly, have felt that I do not deserve to be in the position of leading the team that I lead.
Taking still photos through the left-hand window and also flying my vehicle and probably poorly, and taking a close look at the LEM as he turned around. My most important job here was to make sure that all his landing gear were down and properly locked prior to his... Gives you a better idea of the detail available with the 70 millimeter. Of course, this is a still.
Because they are certainly in some and largely by count of individual more capable than I. That great things take many people working together to make them happen is one of the fantastic things of human existence.
Shows the LEM either right side up or upside down. I'm not sure which. It looks more like, to me, it looked more like a praying mantis than it does a first-class flying machine in this view, but it was a beautiful piece of machinery. The landing gear are at the top, and you can see the probes which indicate lunar contact as thin wires extending upward from the landing gear.
And Bruce, I'd like to ask you, can you give us an idea of one or two questions you'd like to see? I'm sure there are lots of questions, but one or two at the forefront that you would like to see this mission maybe answer or give you hints to the answer?
Okay, so this is going to get kind of nerdy, but
Good, that's good.
But when I was here in 76 and in the next summer in 77, I was working on a project that was looking at the deformation of the Martian surface and how the surface is pushed down under volcanoes and volcanic provinces on Mars. And I kept on running up against the problem that I needed to know the thickness of the crust, because that affected the gravity field, and the gravity field was one of our basic measurements. And so we just had to kind of fake it because we had no idea. So we kind of say, well, it has to be at least this thick and that, but it was just a bunch of, blah, blah, blah.
Undocked, as is shown in this picture, we had to complete the activation. Now, the day before we undocked, we entered the LEM and went through an entire switch configuration check, and we exercised the various communication modes. In retrospect, since we did have a little bit of communication problems on the following day during powered descent, we would recommend that we might make a more thorough check of this on the day before descent.
Right there in the middle of the row. Go ahead, Craig.
With America's Space. Adam, tell us about the landing.
All right, Greg. I can't tell you too much about it. I mean, it looks good. I'm being a little flip. In short, it looked extremely clean. We touched down in conditions that were on the more benign side of our nominal expectation.
Aware of what was going on, you weren't busy. Was there ever a moment on the moon when either one of you were just a little bit spellbound by what was going on?
About 2.5 hours.
I'd like to ask Neil Armstrong when he began.
Conditions that were on the more benign side of our nominal expectation. By the way, I want to preface everything. This is preliminary data scooped with the sieve in the cacophony of the control room during the celebration, right? And largely by my good friend Miguel San Martin, who's somewhere out there, I hope.
His foot down on the lunar surface, and how long he pondered the statement about a small step for man, gigantic leap for mankind.
Yes, I did think about it. It was not extemporaneous, neither was it planned. It evolved during the conduct of the flight, and I decided what the words would be while we were on the lunar surface just prior to leaving the land.
Boingboing.net, and I'm a stand-in for Miles O'Brien with PBS NewsHour tonight.
You look more attractive than Miles.
I won't tell him that, Adam.
Okay.
I think he heard it.
What? I have to ask you, what kind of file type, can you tell us about the image file type and compression that was used to send this very important couple of thumbnails back from Mars?
Yes, unfortunately, I absolutely cannot.
Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, but when you first stepped on the moon, did it strike you as you were stepping on a piece of the Earth, or sort of what your inner feelings were, whether you felt you were standing in a desert, or this was really another world, or how you felt at that point?
Well, there was
no question in our minds where we were. We've been orbiting around the moon for quite a while.
Okay, we're going next over here.
Leo Enright from Irish Television. The unmanned spaceflight website has coordinates for the landing that go down to something like 5 decimal points. I just wanted to confirm with you that you do have those sort of coordinates. And am I reading those coordinates correctly when I see that it looks as though you've landed within 500 meters of the skirt around the mountain? That, I mean, you're really very close to the mountain at the closer end in the landing ellipse, and possibly within striking distance of the phyllosilicate trench.
I can't confirm that. My estimate, I'm looking for somebody, yes, there's somebody in the audience here who has that in the tip of their noggin. We should have soon that estimate, but I don't have it to 5 decimal places. We wouldn't report it to that because we're certain that we don't know it to that. And I don't know what the unmannedspaceflight.com estimate is.
Yeah, there's a team of people that are working on localization, including what information we got on the way down, you know, the nav filter, probably taking a picture of where, looking at the picture and trying to figure out from there where we are. I would imagine by tomorrow's press conferences, they should have a better idea where it came down, within a few hundred meters at least, hopefully.
We have experienced 1.6G before. We've been exposed to some degree to the lighting that we saw. However, this was, in my case, an extremely foreign situation with the stark nature of the light and dark conditions. And, of course, we first set foot on the moon in the dark, shadowy area.